Welcome back to ABC 13 Weather Now. So if you watched our show earlier this week, we teased part 2 of our conversation on sea spray. So let's get right to it. Meteorologist Justin Ballard from the Houston Chronicle joins me now. Okay, Justin, for people who didn't tune in on Monday, first give us a quick Cliff Notes version of what we talked about.
First of all, sea spray is really something that allows for kind of the enhancement or the intensity of a hurricane. Now, it doesn't play as big a role as, say, warm water or that warm deep water, but it certainly is something that allows for that enhanced transfer of heat energy into a hurricane, and it's often an overlooked aspect of hurricane intensity.
Interesting.
And researchers right here in Texas, Dallas technically, but right here in Texas are researching the impact sea spray has on hurricane intensity and hurricane path.
Well, and it's new, and we love to learn about all this new research that is going on. So when it comes to researching this effect, how would a hurricane wind tunnel that we sometimes use to talk about intensity help simulate these conditions?
I mean, you can see it right here. So, in the first couple of little clips there, right before that went to the kind of assembly of the wind tunnel, you see the wind tunnel there. So this is a 40-meter long wind tunnel filled with water, as you can see here, and it allows for researchers at the University of Texas at Dallas to kind of provide some really close to real-world observations and research. So obviously it's not safe to be out in the middle of a hurricane, getting sea spray collections. So this is really the next best thing. And the fact that we're, Dallas is 5 hours from the coast, I mean, this plays a big role. They really can collaborate with a lot of coastal communities as well to really further that research.
Well, and really anywhere research is being done that could be helpful to us, we want to know and talk about it.
Exactly.
So now let's talk about, the different kinds of storms we can see in hurricane season, some that develop out in the water, some that develop closer to the coast. Why would an inland setup be better suited for studying sea spray? Obviously, safety is a concern we talked about, but compared to the open ocean and trying to study something out there.
Instead of trying to study something out there, that's really cost prohibitive. Research in general is very expensive, but when you're talking about having to get on a boat and get into the middle of the ocean and kind of analyze real world sort of things like that, that's going to cost a lot more money than just being able to do research in a kind of a controlled environment. And it's also a little bit of that controlled environment that you want, because you want to be able to replicate that research multiple times. And that's what we're kind of looking at here when we're talking about integrating research into weather models. So data collection is step 1. And I would say they probably are at step 2, which is the operations path. Promising ideas are tested. And again, they're tested kind of multiple times to make sure those ideas can hold up. The operational path, when I say operations, I know you understand what I'm talking about, but this basically means like the integration or the, sort of trying to test out real world sort of concepts before full integration. That's step 3. Those new tools are incorporated into our forecast models. And then this final step, which I didn't label here, step 4, is like fully operational. That research gets pulled into NOAA models, that gets pulled into National Hurricane Center models, and the researchers at the University of Texas at Dallas are really hopeful that NOAA as well as National Hurricane Center models are going to be able to use some of the research that they're doing every year to kind of incorporate that into their models and make those models maybe a little bit better when it comes to intensity forecasts.
Got it. So is there a timeline for that right now?
There is not,
but
I did kind of get the idea. I was talking with Dr. Kianosh Yousefi, who's the researcher over all of this, and he said it's sooner rather than later. So that sounds promising to me. And of course, rapid intensification is something that we all are concerned with, especially here along the Gulf Coast.
Right, and we talked a little bit about on Monday if sea spray could influence rapid intensification. Maybe not directly, but rapid intensification I feel like is something we're going to hear a lot about as the season goes on. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Rapid intensification, when we're talking about a city right here along the coast like Houston, rapid intensification is concerning, especially when we're talking about those warm Gulf waters. And really, temperatures, sea surface temperatures, as well as the ocean heat content. Again, that depth of warm water is really the big drivers for our rapid intensification. But there's some key studies that we've had over the last couple of years. 2023, Otis. I mean, how can you forget? Otis in the Eastern Pacific, 70 miles per hour at 10 a.m. Just 12 hours later, it was up to 160 miles per hour. Even just saying that out loud just gives me chills. Like, how do you prepare for that in a matter of 12 hours? So this is why rapid intensification intensification is something that researchers are really wanting to hone in on and see if we can kind of get a little bit more of that understanding when it comes to different aspects of rapid intensification. We all know warm sea surface temperatures contribute to that, but are there other factors that can also be studied and kind of, pulled into modeling?
And sea spray?
And sea spray is possibly one of them.
Exactly. And Otis was a form of extreme rapid intensification. And as we look at Aaron this week, possibility that it could rapidly intensify, potentially not to that extreme level, but
hopefully.
Every storm, I feel like, as we go on throughout the rest of the season, is something we'll have to look into.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for joining us. This was part 2 of our conversation of sea spray.
That's right.
Something we could be hearing more about in the future. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.